Okay, so now we are recording the session, and let's just dive into the presentation here. We need to there we go. Okay, so, hashtag PHX365 is our little moniker for online sharing and so on. So please feel free to use that. We always take a moment to thank our sponsors, in this case, Catapult Systems, who I work for, and we're hosting the online meeting through Skype for Business via Catapult. And at some point in the future, when we have the ability to do that external user Microsoft Teams version of these meetings, we definitely want to switch to that. I use Teams almost every day at work with my colleagues. We kind of give people who create Skype meetings a hard time these days. Like, oh, you should switch to Teams. Because Teams it's from my experiences, it's more performant. It's easier to use once you get used to it. And so it's time to dive right into Teams if you haven't already, I think, in my opinion. Also, big thank you to Drive Time. Again, this room is amazing. I'm sitting here with my laptop plugged into an HDMI cable, and my video is on 4 screens in the room for those of you in person. For those of you online, when you are talking to us, you're coming through the room speakers, so everybody in the room can hear you loud and clear. So it's a really nice venue, and they do an excellent job coordinating with the leadership, myself in this case, to provide food and drink and coordinate that and everything. So big thank you to sponsors. We wouldn't be able to do this without them. There's a little bit of information for me. If you'd like to reach out, contact me, you're welcome to do so. My email address is there. I'm on Twitter as my middle name is James. That's where the J comes in, Skagich. That was my login ID at Illinois State University back in the day, and so I just kept it, Skagich. That's right. Don't tell. But yeah, so feel free to reach out to me and for anything related to this or whatever. Take a moment and talk about a local item that popped up. This came through Meetup. And so there's a message I received from Neil Fox with Fox Noggin Thinking Design. And take a moment to read over that. And if you're interested, the link to his member profile on Meetup is there. I did reach out back to Neil and ask, can I share your email? Can I share your phone number? I didn't hear back, but, Neil's out there looking for graphic designer related to SharePoint. Okay. Seems like a temporary project for the summer. So if anyone's interested, let me know. We can try to get a hold of Neil.
I would be interested.
Okay. And that's Ashley, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So let me just go back one here to my contact info. If you want to, you can shoot me an email.
Perfect.
And you can shoot me an email at that email address there, or reach out to me on Meetup through the group, or on LinkedIn through that group, or what have you. And we'll find out a way to coordinate and see if we can get a hold of Neil.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I've been trying to put together somewhat of a better slide deck. People like visuals. I'm not a very creative person, but people like creativity. People think it's fun, it's flashy, it's engaging, and I need to just get over myself and start doing some of this stuff. It's more time consuming too, right? I've definitely spent more time on slides lately, not for this presentation, but for other customer things than I have in the past. So I'm working on getting better about this kind of stuff. But I want to talk about some resources that are available to all of us, publicly accessible. The Patterns and Practices group has a ton of resources. So if you go to aka.ms/SPPNP, that's your SharePoint Patterns and Practices landing page. They link out to all sorts of different stuff, lots of fantastic resources. If you're doing work with SharePoint, I strongly encourage you to follow the PNP group. Follow Vesa and Erwin and Bert and others. I got to meet him in person finally at the SharePoint conference, and made them all stand together and take a picture real quick with me. So they were really nice about it. It was great to have that opportunity. Now, the next couple slides I did kind of steal from the PMP slide deck from the April community call. The reason I did this is because this is something that I've always been encouraging folks to be aware of and join and participate in, but not everyone's aware of these calls. So there are some links on this slide for the SharePoint developer group. There is a bi-weekly SharePoint framework call. So if you're a developer writing code using the SharePoint framework, that's every other week, every other week, right? There's a call that you might be interested in joining, so there's a link to that there. Then there's also a general development call for SharePoint. So maybe it's not SharePoint framework specific, but it's for people doing development work with SharePoint. There's probably a little SharePoint framework sprinkled in there, but that's a separate call. And then there are the monthly community calls. So aka.ms/sppmp-call down there at the bottom. So that's once a month, and they kind of recap everything that's happened in the month. So, I'm on these calls every week. Whatever call's happening that week. Sometimes there's 2 calls in a week, sometimes there's 1. I do my best to attend all of them because they're 7 a.m. Phoenix time, which works well for my schedule because my company's in Texas and I can, sneak that in there a little bit. But if you can't make the weekly calls or these bi-weekly special interest group calls, and you just want to kind of keep up and be aware of what's going on in the community, take a look at attending that monthly community call. Attend one, start to finish, see how it goes, see if it's interesting, do your best to stay engaged in that very first one. Chat with people in the IM window as it's going. These are all currently Skype sessions, right? And one of the slides they always put in their presentation is, yes, we know about Microsoft Teams. We can't use it yet. So once Microsoft Teams has the capability to do what we've all been doing with Skype, like we are right now, you'll see a lot of these groups switch over to Microsoft Teams. Okay. Here's some other links. Again, if you go to that very first one, this aka.ms/sppmp, that will get you to all the calls. That will get you to all these resources as well. But I wanted to include this in case folks wanted to jot down the individual URLs. So videos, if you notice an issue, there's a place to go complain professionally and politely. That's key. And then the documentation is out there as well. And the really cool thing about a lot of this stuff is anybody in the world can go report an issue. Anybody in the world can go copy the source code of one of these development documents, put it in Word, and run a spell check on it. Fix some typos, fix some grammar errors, contribute back to the PMP community, and then your name gets to make the list of all the people who contributed for the month. And if you attend the monthly community call, you see the names of everybody who's contributed to PMP. It's pretty cool. And that list is growing every month.
Is this only for new development stuff?
No, this is for new.
For everything, SharePoint.
This is for everything, yeah.
Oh, well, I could give you a story.
Well, let's offline then maybe.
No, that's okay. No, I mean, it's just that I try to get some stuff resolved. But I guess long story short, they kept calling me saying if I got my issue resolved, but they never really, people in India never connected with the people in the US, with the developers to fix. Remember that last migration with the workflow issue? I tried to get that fixed. That they messed up when they took all the workflows down?
I don't remember offhand.
Yeah,
It's
okay. I told them never to call me again. So.
Oh boy. Well, let's circle back.
Just for that ticket.
Fair enough. Gerard, very funny comment. Microsoft has the user community doing their documentation for them.
It's not perfect. It's not perfect.
Yeah. GitHub is the best. All right. Another interesting slide. This is again from the PMP deck. Part of my creativity right now is copy paste. So there is that. But for the development, the patterns and practices community, you see the word dev in there a lot. It's not just developers and programming. It's people doing stuff with SharePoint. What's the pattern to do this solution? What's the best way to go about solving this problem using SharePoint or Office 365 tools? So there's just some interesting numbers here. And down there on the bottom right, it says the most used capability of PMP is the provisioning engine. And it's currently
It's
affecting.
amazing.
Sorry?
I was just saying it's amazing.
Yes, it's quite amazing. And I'd like to, we should have an opportunity today to do a demo of that. But it's pretty incredible. Currently, almost 3,000 tenants are using it. That number is going to go up, especially since these are April numbers, April 2019. We just had the SharePoint conference where the provisioning engine, the provisioning service went GA, generally available. It's still labeled as beta, I believe, on the website, but it is now generally available, and it can help you tell a really compelling story with SharePoint. So I'll get into that here in a little bit. I have some other links here for you. If you'd like to watch the keynote presentation, just go to sharepointna.com. It's currently embedded on that page. It didn't have a link to YouTube or anywhere else, so it's out there. And that's the hour, 2 hour, hour and a half keynote. Jeff Teeper was presenting, a lot of different folks. And that's where a lot of the big announcements were made. Another amazing resource, if you haven't seen this or heard about this yet, is called the SharePoint Lookbook. Okay? One of the big problems not problems, but one of the most common things we want to do with SharePoint is change how it looks, right? Nobody likes the way it is out of the box. You want to put your color on there, your logo, your branding. How can you do that? So the SharePoint Lookbook is a free resource that provides example designs that you can achieve using native functionality without a programmer, without development, okay? Just using the native functionality. These are examples of compelling content and imagery to show you what kinds of designs are capable. And if you go out there and search for just SharePoint Lookbook, 3 words, you'll find it, no problem. I have a copy of it here. This is as of April 2019. And if you've heard of, has anyone heard of Kathy Du? Okay, 1 and 2. So Kathy Du is an MVP who's worked with SharePoint for a number of years, and now she works for Microsoft. And she's had she's been a big part of this SharePoint Lookbook.
Is that just using like the formatting options and columns and views and things like that, or what do you mean by native functionality?
Yeah, I mean, it's using native functionality. So point and click, drag and drop in the browser, creating a section, adding a web part, putting an image in there. Just, because when you create a team site, you don't get a whole lot, right? So as somebody, and here's a great example. At Catapult, we have a graphic designer, and she is the one person at Catapult who always does all of our SharePoint design comps for our customers. She is not a SharePoint person. She is a graphic design person. She can look at something and be like, those should be spaced out a little further. The balance is off. The colors are crappy, and so on and so forth. So almost every time she's put together a design comp that's gone to a customer, that's been reviewed and approved by the customer, there's been something on there that cannot be achieved. Because she's looking at with her design eye, right? And in order to truly achieve that design she's put together, we can't just point and click and make it happen. We actually have to do something crazy on the code side, and it's kind of hacky and doesn't always work. So we've matured our process a bit to try to avoid creating design comps. And the modern experience really facilitates that, because now I can actually put together a team site or a communication site in a matter of minutes, and I can say, hey, send me some nice looking Shutterstock pictures or what have you, and work with the designer to actually natively put them in a SharePoint site, take a screenshot of that and send that to the customer. We know we can do it because we just did it. And then what the customer is seeing and approving is achievable, and we're good. Now, that's kind of the benefit here of the SharePoint Lookbook too, I think, because I can actually give my designer a copy of this or one of the screenshots in here and say, here are the different elements that go into SharePoint and the different things where you can control colors and layouts and so on. And I could have her create something based on one of these and tweak a couple colors and so on to implement another organization's branding. So it's quite nice to have this capability, to have these sample designs out here so that you can facilitate a conversation about actually what is possible without having to go overboard with a lot of custom development.
But with this level, or to do this much in a modern site, you have to be at the tenant level.
So to do this much in the modern site, you have to be at the tenant level. So you're talking about permissions wise?
Right. Capability to do.
You do.
Typically, it depends on what it is you're trying to do. Everything's achievable with SharePoint admin, right? As far as design goes. But if you're the owner of a site collection,
Okay.
then you can customize the look and feel of that site collection.
It's just where to place things on the page, right? The
Yeah.
different parts.
Yeah. These are examples of designs that already have compelling content. Because I could put together a wireframe of all this for you without the colors that are in the pictures, and the story would be the same. It's here's a layout we can achieve, and here's where your content would go. But these samples include that content, include those images, that color. They do a lot in here with drones, and you've seen that quite a bit in a lot of these screenshots. And they just give you other examples of team sites, communication sites, and so on. So point is, it's a great resource for design.
I know you have to be a tenant administrator to apply a theme,
Yeah.
but they have the Microsoft developer account, which is what I basically do. I have my work account that I'll do stuff on. I'm not a tenant administrator. And then I have my own personal one for Microsoft developer.
Yes. So that's a good point. If you are trying to add a theme to a site, so this is a site where if I go to change the look and go to
This
theme,
is awesome.
I have so I was going to get into this a little bit later, but these are my P&P cats. P&P patterns.
I'm so excited right now about this stuff.
P&P is Penny and Percy. Okay.
Those real.
Oh my God.
Those are my real
Perfect.
cats. Those are my real cats. That's Penny right there, and then we've got a young Percy right there.
Oh.
Good looking theme, by the way.
Thank you. I use
Awesome.
so again here. I grabbed my little tool and I was like, what color is Penny's golden ear? Right, and grab that color there, and then I would put that in the theme. But in any case, I created a couple themes to the purpose of my site. These cats. I'm going to start building out some fun content because, like I said, it's more engaging for you guys as an audience to see something fun or relatable or what have you. Has anyone seen Chris Kent's presentations?
I have seen a few.
Chris Kent, he does a lot of the presentations on the P&P calls, and he has this whole warrior horses theme. And
I've seen that.
Yeah, so he's just got different
It's awesome.
pictures of horses, and they've got armor on and they're shooting
Isn't
lasers
that with like
out of
the
their
column
eyes.
formatting too?
Yeah, he's the
He
column
does some of
formatting
that?
guy. Yep.
Awesome.
But in order to add these themes, Benita, to add these themes to here,
Well, I've added a theme, but we
So-
have some limitations. Like
there,
they block down at the tenant level.
yes, you can. There are different tiers of. The best thing I can advise is if you create your own developer tenant, where you can do whatever you want to do. You can learn what you can. A great way to go about things is build it yourself in your own environment and start showing it to people. And then they'll go, hey,
That's what I did.
Okay, that sounds good, or that looks nice, and let's do that, right?
Totally worked.
It's free.
It's a very-
Yep. I mean, this one here is
I'll
Eric.
post the link in our Skype real quick.
Sorry?
Thank you.
I'll post a link to the dev sign up in our Skype.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Ashley.
You're
So
welcome.
I've added these 4 themes, but in order to add these 4 themes, I had to connect to the SharePoint Online admin URL. So in that case, I have to be a SharePoint Online admin minimum to add the themes. But once the themes are here, as a designer, right, I can change the theme. So I've got my light background golden gray, and then I've got my golden background or my dark background. Okay. So, good stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, they have the palette tool too.
yes, and that tool, the palette tool, has changed quite a bit, actually. Let me pull that up.
Can you use that with
The palette tool?
I haven't used it with Modern. I've used it with the regular publishing.
Well, here's
Are you
what
talking about like the old school one or the fabric one?
this one
There's
here.
2.
So the SharePoint color palette tool is an older thing. If you want to create a theme for the modern experience, it's this right here. You'd go to, man, they keep changing the URL around. They've actually modified it a little bit.
It's way better.
It's way better, but basically you put in your primary color, your text color, and then you can export the theme. And in my case, I use the PowerShell palette. I drop that into a PowerShell script that I've pre-created, which I can show too, wherever my taskbar went. So bear with me just a moment, and let me change the theme here because on the screen in the room, that dark theme is not great. Try again. Oh, still loading. There we go. That should be a little bit better. I've got a bunch of scripts that I use for work, and they're just all kind of piling in here right now. But here's my add SharePoint modern theme script right here. Let's get some of this out of the way. Can you see that in the room okay? So in this case, it connects to the tenant admin URL endpoint. I've got a custom module to import PowerShell for import the correct version of the SharePoint PowerShell commandlets for whatever version of SharePoint I want. I pass in the environment, online 13, 16, 19, and it loads what's supposed to happen, which is pretty helpful. Give the theme a name, paste the palette in here, and then there's just some conditional logic in here that says, hey, if it's already there, remove it, then add it to override it and replace it. Otherwise, just say, I couldn't add the theme for some reason. So it's a nice little script, and you just, boom, paste your palette in there. And this is what I did right before this meeting today. At home, I was like, I gotta put Penny and Percy up there, my P&P cats, and I'd like to have a theme that looks like their fur, and that's how we do it. So it's pretty cool. Let's move on. The provisioning service, ultra cool. Provisioning.sharepointpmp.com. So the SharePoint lookbook is great. It shows you what some designs can be. What if you actually had a site that was a real site that you could point and click in and interact with that was an example of one of those? Okay. So let's start one of these off because it'll take a few minutes. Provisioning.sharepointpmp.com. Yeah, it does say beta up here, but it's GA. And so it gives you a couple examples. Here's an enterprise landing. Here's a drone like a specific product landing, like a drone landing. Leadership site, work at Contoso. Some of these are hub sites. Some of these are sites that are joined to a hub site, and so on. Let's do this leadership site. And so it explains the template. Here's what it is. Here's what scenario it represents in the grand scheme of things, and so on. And it gives you some information. So what do you get? A custom welcome pages, 2 additional content pages, news articles with sample content, sample image used in the template, all this good stuff. Okay. I say, I want this. I actually have a customer meeting in half an hour, and I need a site where I can show something to them. at a minimum, and this happens with sales, our sales team all the time. You know, everything's a 5-alarm fire and last minute's got to be done now. So back in the day, and this is a year ago, a salesperson would reach out to me and say, Eric, I need a demo site for Fuse. And everything was the classic experience. And you create a site collection. That takes at least 15 minutes. Then you had to go turn on publishing. And oh my goodness, that takes forever too. And then I'm scrambling to run scripts and beep, bop, boop, click and point, and here's a screenshot. So you use that. Now we can kind of relax a little bit, because if I'm a salesperson that has access to a tenant, granted, I could also go create my own developer tenant, even though I'm not a developer. I don't want to do it in that environment. So let me try this again. Sorry, wrong tenant.
I think we're doing too good, but it's our main ASU organization that's setting them up, because we can request them and they will set up at least one of those. Application site or something.
Yeah, cool. So the app this is an app, right? It's saying, hey, I need to do all these things. So we say, of course, I would love for you to do all these things, and accept that. And there's a little bit of waiting, but here we go. What's your notification email? What's the title of the site? What's the URL of the site? Do you want to apply a theme? Yes or no? Maybe we do. Make sure the URL is available, not currently consumed by something else. It's important. And then what theme? Oh, let's go with the PnP Cats, just the regular gold. The primary color is gold, but the background will be white, and so on. And then, I mean, that's it. Title, URL, theme, provision. Now it's validating. I think it's going to prompt me again. Okay, so this is your kind of final, hey, here's what's about to happen. And so you say, cool. And look at this. There's your time frame right there. Provisioning will take approximately 5 minutes. Not 15, not 30 with publishing, not an hour for you to run your custom stuff to get a site of demo content out there to a customer. So I'll hit confirm, and it started. Now if I try to get to this URL right now, no dice, 404. But let's come back to that. Okay. The point is, this provisioning service is very cool and gives you, this is something I'm trying to get folks on board with at Catapult as part of our story, as we're talking to customers about transitioning to the modern experience. Everyone is still, oh, I don't want to do modern. I can't do everything yet. But that's true to a degree, and I empathize with that. But this helps tell the story. When you can see a site that's live and working and you can interact with its elements and edit that page and remove that drone picture or whatever, it's quite nice. So let's come back to that. In fact, while we wait on that, this is something I thought I'd try out today. For those of you that are online, I don't know if the audio for the video is going to come through. So actually, let me grab this link. If I can.
This thing is awesome. I watched it live because I was not able to go. I don't think it was live. I think it was just a link to it later.
We're just going to try this. There's the link in the chat window for you. And so here in the room, for those of you attending, just if you wouldn't mind, stay on mute for a moment, for about a minute. We're going to give this a watch and see how it goes. This is the new marketing video from Microsoft for SharePoint. And I screwed it up. Oh, because I went to the next slide. That's it.
You make it look so easy.
Right. They do make it look quite easy. Everything just fits right together and looks nice, right? So that was a big hit at the conference. Lots of applause on that one. So I thought I'd share that. Another resource I wanted to kind of share is the week after the SharePoint conference. So last week was the I don't know what week it is. May 21 through 23rd. So last week, the European Collaboration Summit was out in Europe. Was an event that took place similar to our own SharePoint conference. And so there are a ton of presentations out there on SlideShare if you look for European Collaboration Summit. Lots of good info out there. Common people you hear about with PMP, Vesa and Paulo and Bert and Erwin and I'm sure I'm forgetting tons of people. Waldeck and
Laura Kogan.
Victor. What's that?
Laura Kogan.
Laura. Oh yeah, you want to do design, you're going to find a lot of stuff from Laura for sure. So in any case, that's just a quick link share for you. I'm going to post this presentation to our LinkedIn group as well, because Meetup doesn't like files anymore, or I can't find it, which intuition is part of the game, right? So with that, I wanted to dive into some of the top announcements from the conference. Now these slides are super cool coming up. Just a heads up, he said sarcastically.
Really?
Yeah, really. I apologize. But SharePoint home sites, okay? The basic premise here is you will have the ability to go home, not edit your address bar and go to the root of .sharepoint.com and hit enter, right, to manually manipulate your URL and go to the home site, the root site. No, you'll be able to pick a site collection, as I understand it, that you designate as home. And you will then be able to get home from anywhere else in SharePoint and from anywhere else in Office 365, as I understand it.
I can do that.
We're doing that at ASU. It's actually at Oregon at the top level.
I set it up in my, the way I do the, what do you call it?
So you're right. There are ways that it can be done
Yeah,
now.
because I use the older style. I don't use that new where you have to put in all the words, and I just went, kind of look back. So I have the home showing up depending
Mm-hmm.
on the site. Now, some of the migrated stuff didn't do it.
Oh well, I'm not talking about the home tab for the current site. I'll have another example I'll show you.
No, to go up to the top level.
Not even the top level. You could be anywhere and go to whatever you designated to be your home,
Okay.
outside of the context of your current navigation.
Okay.
So bigger than that. In fact, one of my colleagues put together a presentation that I was going to pull up here. Oh, it's under Documents and Events and Us and Today and this one. It's only 100 megabytes. I don't know what he's got in here. So this is Reza Durrani, a colleague of mine at Catapult. Has been putting this together. Similar concept, talking about SharePoint home sites. They're built on top of communication sites, responsive like communication sites are, but you get one home site for your entire tenant, okay? And then here's part of the idea. If you'll notice, on the phone here, see that little home icon? You could be anywhere in your intranet, anywhere in your SharePoint environment, and you get lost and you just want to start over and go home, right? You don't have to know where home is. You've got your home icon. That just gets you back to that starting point, whatever that's designated to be. There are ways that we could do that in the past. This is a little bit different because it's an easy to configurable setting in the UI where you don't have to think about navigation and cross-site collection stuff. You can be anywhere and go home. So it's a pretty compelling thing that when you think about it, it's not that profound, but We're just now getting it. So, let's see, where was I here? Let's go back to that one. Cool. SharePoint start page was the next one. It's a personalized page containing content to you. Think about it as your Delve profile or what have you. It's just a page that's all about you. There's some AI, I think, behind the scenes that's surfacing content to you based on activity and who you work with and people related to you in the organization and recently modified documents and all that good stuff. This one got a major round of applause. I think it was in the keynote. And you have the ability now to change the URL of a site collection. Yeah. Remember how you used to have to like create the new site at the right URL, the URL you want, and then like go grab that trial migration ShareGate tool and then migrate from point A to point B and hope that everything comes over, but not everything does because it's just a trial. Now you'll be able to go in and just rename and change the site URL. So that's pretty profound because as we're building out our site architecture, we start off with one idea and it's great. And we decide we want our URL to be human resources. HUMAN, da 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 da. And then we're like, wait, that should have just been HR. Let's save some space. Save ourselves some headache. So that's pretty grand. Quick check on comments.
That's really necessary in an organization when you're changing departments and reorganizing all the time.
Yeah.
We've named the site URL in one department that we change all the time. So, sorry.
No, it's a great point. Deirdre brings
And
up a great point.
said, once you have that name, we can't change it because it'll mess everything. So this is actually
Right.
I can tell them now. Yes, you can.
Well, and if you were to bring in another organization, a merger of two companies, the parent company owns the environment, but then they want to start creating sites for that child company or that new company that they're merging with. Things are just a lot easier just with the ability to rename those sites, change those URLs so easily. Naveen asks, can we bring our on-premise site URLs when migrating to Office 365? I think kind of is the answer. The Office 365 URLs are always going to be something.sharepoint.com. And then your managed paths are limited to pretty much just sites. There is a Teams managed path. So you can use something.sharepoint.com/sites/whatever, and you can change the whatever to what you want it to be. Yeah, you still will have the tenant name in the URL. It's a good question. Unfortunately, my very first SharePoint Online project was with the Cook County Sheriff's Office in Chicago, on site at the jail, so that was not stressful. But that was the very first thing they wanted to do. Is they wanted their URL. They wanted to use a vanity URL for their online SharePoint environment. Can't do it. I didn't know it at the time, so I'm opening up tickets with Microsoft and talking to them about how to do all this stuff, and they're like, no, it's a shared cloud.sharepoint.com environment. You could go get your own cloud, do your own thing, whatever. But yeah, it's the option that they do have is if you're at work on the network, you can use internal DNS to route people where you want them to go. But once they leave the network, they're going to need to know .sharepoint.com and have some starting point. Okay. This is something I was hoping to try to show. So there's some improvements to OneDrive and Outlook mobile app. From within OneDrive, you can actually request files from others. And if you're inside of an office, like a Word document, and you want to pull in a PowerPoint slide from some presentation, you can do that. So I'd like to see if I can show that now. we're just going to do a new super fancy blank document. And there are, you'll actually see if you've noticed in SharePoint, we now have the search box up at the top, right there in the middle of the sweet bar. I'll get into that a little bit more. But that search box you're going to see in SharePoint and in OneDrive and in your Office applications. Meaning I'm in Word right now. The version of Word that I have, it's not up to date for whatever reason, but I will have a search box right up here where it says Document 1. And I'll be able just to start searching. I'll also eventually be able to go to my Windows search. You know, you search down here, and I'll be able to search for home or whatever I want at work. I know David Warner is a colleague of mine, so David Warner. Okay. Some templates out there. But then I'll be able to search. This was a big announcement, was Microsoft Search. The ability to search anything from anywhere across the Microsoft suite, including Windows and your Office apps and SharePoint and OneDrive in the browser. But, so my point here is you'll be able to search for your PowerPoint document in the search box. But for right now, what I can do is I can go to Insert and Add from Files and choose Show More Files. And I'm currently searching OneDrive and SharePoint. Okay. So I can go find that presentation that I'm interested in, whatever that presentation may be, and I'm actually logged in with my Catapult account, so we need to sign in with my jamesskaggs.onmicrosoft.com.
Their search, yeah, they used to be like one of the most complaining thing, I think, with their search.
Yeah, search has been is being greatly improved. I know right now the main David, we were talking about classic versus modern and telling that story. One of the biggest gaps is the search experience. In the classic experience, you could create a search center and you could have custom search verticals, custom pages, control your queries and your result sources, and add refiners and all that good stuff. And it's not been available in modern, but it is coming to modern. It's not there yet, but it is coming.
We were talking about Bing search, they're going to call it.
Yes.
Did they get rid of that? Is that off the table?
No, Bing's. I'll show you Bing search here in a little bit. Let me try this again here. Show more files. So now I'm logged in with my account. So I'm in a Word document, and this is seeing things that are out there in OneDrive, and this happens to be tonight's presentation. I can click into that. Here are all the slides in the presentation. I'm like, yes, this one. That's the one I want to insert in my Word doc. So right there, I can just insert it. And of course now I can click on it and tinker with it and move it around, resize, all that good stuff. But it's pretty handy. I don't have to go find the PowerPoint, open it in PowerPoint, and then go to the slide, copy it, and paste it, and hope for the best.
Do you retain the interactivity? Like if there's stuff on that slide, can you move things around?
Good question. If there's, can I edit the content of the slide? Is what David's asking. So yeah, it's been pulled over at this point as an image.
And that's fine. That's really useful. I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps all those little.
What? Does the file updates? Will it update that?
Ooh, good question. If the PowerPoint deck were to be updated, would it update in here? I don't believe so. My expectation is that it's a copy. I haven't tried it, but I would not expect it. Good question. You'll be able to, third bullet point here, mention people in comments within your Office documents. So, we all use comments, right, in our Word documents. So you have a paragraph of text and you want to call somebody out and say, hey, so-and-so, do this here. You'll be able to insert a comment. And this isn't working here for right now, but say, hey, at Penny, clean up your food, whatever. And then she'd get a message to notice, hey, Penny's making a mess in here, right?
This is basic of 365 stuff.
It is. It's a lot of this is available and stuff that you've been able to do in Office 365 in a way. The point is they're now taking some of these capabilities and bringing them full fidelity is a good way to say it, so that you'll have it in your Office applications as well. So you don't have to go out and do it online. You're in Word, you can interact with it.
Well, something interesting that I'm seeing or not seeing is when we used to upgrade through the years with Office,
Mm-hmm.
even at ASU, we would send our groups to a small class maybe for half a day or whatever and get the updates and the new nifty little things, the interactions with all the different applications with
Mhm.
Office. I don't see this happening now at all with O365, nothing
No?
at our,
So-
so people have no idea how all this interacts without them experimenting themselves.
I don't know. I think you bring up a good point. We used to, yeah, every time there was an Office update or an upgrade or, the 3-year cycle of Microsoft products,
Right.
we'd put together some training curriculum for our employees. We'd get them in a room and say, oh, these are the people that need to know these things, and those other people need to know those things. And you get your certificate or your badge or your sticker or what have you.
Microsoft has that for us for free now.
Say again?
I forget what it. Microsoft will give you that for free. They have a site that has how to get your team on board with the modern Teams and SharePoint and all the new features, and it has all the learning resources for you.
Yeah, so if you're with Catapult, what we'll do is we'll take an entire company and we'll onboard them to Office 365 through Microsoft's Fast Track program. And they've got a ton of resources available for that. Change management, how do you make these changes and convince people to do it effectively and so on, and build excitement and really get people engaged so they adopt it and all that good stuff. But I think your point is definitely well made, and it might be just a generational transition. We used to get our software every 3 years. So once we got it, cool. We didn't have to worry about anything for 3 years. And then it was a whole major shift 3 years later where it was like, okay, we're going to do this again. Now I logged in yesterday, I didn't have a search box. Now I have a search box, where we're getting our features faster and without notice. And there are resources available. The SharePoint roadmap tells you what's coming, but it's kind of up to you to keep up with that. And people don't, you're right.
People will do the minimum of their job,
Mm-hmm.
never ever go out and look at what features. They'll say, what's that certain, and not even use it likely.
Right. Yeah.
Unless they're forced to go into a training or a class or something as a group thing, that's required. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what's happening is I'm finding people that I work with have we're on a team, more of a tech team, and we have a small SharePoint committee development. But outside of that, nobody wants to hear anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just want to stay in their little, and it's such a weird environment anymore. It's just,
People act like they're scared. I know exactly what you're talking about. And some of the people that you're like,
and
aren't you tech savvy?
and here's the deal, right? From my perspective, I'm a consultant, so I help companies implement these things a lot. So I'm familiar with what these things are because it's part of my job. But if you're a bank, you don't care about SharePoint. So your IT department builds its intranet on SharePoint. Cool, great. You don't care what the technology is. You want to be able to go to the intranet and get what you need, and you don't need to know about the new search bar and all this other stuff. So there are people who, in their day-to-day job, none of this matters because it's not their core line of business and it's not what they do. They're not sitting here dealing with it all day, every day. I think what you'll see happen is for people who aren't, there will be people who kind of champion these things on their own internally. They'll find something, they'll have an interest, they'll experiment, they'll be like, oh, I can go to this search box now and do all these things, and search is better, and now I'm finding stuff that I wasn't able to. So I think we're going to kind of organically see some champions come out and help promote some of these things.
But you have to be, if you're a champion, you have to be noticed and appreciated for that. Otherwise, you shut down and then you say, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
When everybody looks at you and goes, don't even mention SharePoint.
Well, and I think as far as being a champion goes, it's more about don't try to get people to use something that's not useful to them.
No, you're right. You
Right?
have to show
Say,
them what's useful.
hey, I know you do this all day, every day, and I know you've got this this is a literal example from my previous life. I worked for a blood processing company. They manufactured hardware components that process human blood. So when you go donate blood and you're hooked up to the autophoresis device, you got a tube in each arm and they're sucking one out of you and putting it in back in the other. They manufactured the machines that did that and the centrifuges and all that stuff. So they had a catalog of parts. And at one point, that catalog of parts was in a SharePoint list. And right behind me, kitty corner cubicle, was a woman named Sam. And she'd have a question for me on SharePoint every now and then. I'd walk over there and she'd be going through this list, 50 items at a time, 10 pages. She'd click next, wait for it to load. Next, wait for it to load. And I'm over her shoulder watching her. I'm getting irritated. So I'm getting antsy. So I'm like, Sam, what are you looking for? Oh, it's down here. It's this particular product that's got this label. I'm like, should we just create a view? What do you mean? So she didn't care about SharePoint or know about it. She knew what she had to do to get her job done. But once I showed her and created a view for her, she was speechless. She's like, you just saved me hours of time. And I was like, I'm very sorry that was that easy. It's great, but she wouldn't have known that on her own. She wouldn't have, it's hard to say. So Ashley's posted some great links out there in the chat. And I can, I'm going to have to remind myself to grab all this and share it with the group as well. But she linked to this resource here. Yeah, this is kind of the compelling story, building a modern intranet in Office 365. If you work with a fast track partner, Catapult Systems should be in there somewhere, I assume, because that's part of what we do. Let's get through the rest of these announcements real quick. Live events in Yammer is a thing now. Does anyone use Yammer? Got one?
We did. We had it at ASU for a while, but they decided to go with Slack as our
Slack, yeah.
Because I think they got some perks back from Slack.
Okay, Slack perks, cool.
Slack and Teams is kind of compete.
Well,
Yeah.
We have Teams, and we wanted Teams to be the main enterprise, and a newer VP and UTO came in and said, and then when we were at this conference, he said that we got this incentive and that, so I think they've got a bunch of incentives from Slack for us to make it the enterprise over Teams. So right now, Teams is shunned.
Nope. It's an interesting ecosystem because Yammer was really popular for a while. It's Facebook for the enterprise. It had some gaps and so on. There wasn't really close integration between it and SharePoint or it and anything else. Really, Yammer was Yammer, right? And then Slack started building up in popularity. Microsoft rolled out Microsoft Teams as the Slack competitor. And it was like, at the time, Slack and Teams were kind of equals. Slack was a little bit better. And if you hated Microsoft, you're going to be on the Slack wagon, right? Now, Teams has come a long way. And we're all really excited for Teams to completely destroy Skype. Bye-bye Skype, hello Teams, right? No more Skype madness and, will Yammer go away?
Although we got Zoom. Yeah, Zoom took over for Skype.
Okay. Zoom. I've been wondering if Yammer's going to eventually go away. I kind of feel like it will, but it's probably got some life left in it still. I don't know.
They'll integrate it into Teams.
Or it'll be integrated somehow. Yeah, I don't really know what the investment on Yammer really looks like. But you can see here they're talking about Stream and Yammer kind of together. In fact, if you come out to all apps, we go to Stream. Stream is your organization video streaming service. So I can go to my videos, and there's Penny. So I don't know if these can be made external yet or not at this point, but I saw something in here earlier, like you can create a live event right here in Stream. Now I'm assuming this has something to do with Yammer, or if you actually go into Yammer and create a live event, it's recorded out here in Stream automatically. There's a lot of things are kind of using Stream as a service behind the scenes now. And what I've seen is in Microsoft Teams, which I don't have open, I suppose. I do. As you hold meetings in Microsoft Teams, you can record just like you can in Skype. I don't have any in here. But when you record a meeting in Microsoft Teams, it stays in the meeting chat as a clickable link, but the video is automatically in stream as well. So, with Skype right now, I'm recording this session. When we're done, I gotta wait for the laptop to process it, and then I've got to go find the file and upload it somewhere, and I'll upload it to Stream. But Teams just kind of does all that for you. It's pretty nice. SharePoint search updates. This is really, really cool. This is one of the things I'm the most excited about because I've had to do the daily struggle of trying to build search in Modern. And when it comes down to it, if you're a company and you want to be all in on Modern, you can't be because your search site is still classic. And I've gone through and made all the CSS changes to make it look like it's a classic site embedded in a Modern UI. And it works, but it doesn't look the best. And you feel like there's something wrong, right? Like someone's watching. But you can read that later. There's a lot of cool stuff. One of the things I want to show you is in the admin center, you go to portal.office.com. You come to this screen. You can go to admin. This is your normal admin environment. On the left here, click show all the way down. You can go to all admin centers because you used to have them all listed here, but it's like, we're running out of room. So there's another place for that. All admin centers, and one of them is Microsoft Search. Now this is my own personal tenant where I am on targeted release, so I get the latest, greatest as soon as Microsoft it rolls out to me. So in Microsoft Search, there's these three sections here at the top: bookmarks, Q&A, and locations. So bookmarks are kind of what you think they would be. I added a bookmark for the PHX 365 meetup with a link out to our meetup site. Okay. Q&A, common questions. What's the meaning of life? Well, what do you want the answer to be to your staff, to your employees, to your organization? Help them find it. People keep asking, where are the benefits information? Where's my booklets? Where's my employee handbook, and so on? Common, frequently asked questions can be in here, and then when they are searching, you can make them come up more easily, right? You've got the title, the answer, some keywords can be associated with these. Really cool is locations. Put in a location name, drop in an address. Okay? So now what we'll do is this is PHX 365. So if I'm over here in now this location I did just add, so we'll see how this goes.
It said 15 seconds.
We want the P&P Cat site, right? P&P Cats. So now if I use my fancy search box up here, which is always available across all my workloads in Office 365. If I want to search, I don't have to go find SharePoint and then search, because remember that used to be down. It's zooming in on me. The search box was over here in the header. So if you're out in Outlook, you might have to, I need to go search for something in SharePoint. You have to find your way to SharePoint and search. Typically, that's what people just kind of did. But this will allow me to search, across a lot of stuff. And if I do PHX 365 in here, I actually got no results in this site. I can go to all content down here, and there's my meetup link bookmark. Okay. But there's also integration with Bing. So all of this tied together conversationally is called Microsoft Search. So again, what I just searching for this to get this link, I'll be able to do from eventually. Now right now a lot of this is coming, but I'll be able to do this from Windows. Okay, so I'll be able to hit my Windows key and do PHX 365. What do you got? It'll find it for me. I'll be able to do this from my Office applications. I'll also be able to go out to Bing And in Bing, if I'm signed in with my work account, which I currently am, my work account is my ericjamesskaggs.onmicrosoft.com account at this time. I can then do a search for PHX365, and I get this Microsoft search section, which tells me only Eric James Skaggs people can see these results. It's searching my organization at the very same time. Now, I was hoping this was going to work out the way that I wanted it to, but I added the location for drive time where we're at right now a couple hours ago, and I guess the search hasn't caught up yet and integrated with Bing. But what would normally happen is you would actually see the map, the interactive map to this location would be right here. I actually had it set to my own personal home address, and I had it working, and I was like, I probably shouldn't put that out there. So we'll put it out here for drive time where we meet. And it's just, it didn't update yet. So there's your bookmark, right? Which links right out to that. There's a file. And there's the note, that's the PowerPoint presentation, and the note from Neil looking for a graphic designer. Okay. And Microsoft, during the conference, someone made a good point. I forget who it was. It might have been Jeff Teeper or someone else, but they said that what they're finding is that employees of organizations, when they want to go find something in their organization, they'll go out to Google or they'll go out to Bing and search out there for it, because that's what they're most familiar with. If you want to find something online, you go to Google, you go to Bing, right? So this is a great way to say, hey, you know what? Go search for it on Bing, but then you also have to be aware that you need to be logged in with your work account. There's going to be some shift with that. It's not going to be all roses right off the bat. But if you build it and there's some compelling value to people, you don't want to go to Google.
I actually reset all my home sites to other, like DuckDuckGo.
Sure. Yeah,
It doesn't track, but the problem is, what do I end up doing? They don't have a lot of stuff in their search engine yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't come up, and unfortunately I have to go to Google.
Yep. Sometimes you're just stuck with.
But I hate to have to be part of that huge algorithm.
Well, and just think about how people feel about Microsoft. I know a lot of people who work for companies and their platforms are all Microsoft, and those people are not entirely happy in their jobs, but they deal with it, right? So you'll have that.
I want to stay hidden.
Right, stay hidden. All right, so there's some cool updates coming there. Search index is going to be faster. They're building in some custom adaptive cards. I don't know that I've got a good example of that in here, but if you do a search for, you'll get suggestions as you type. This is my own tenant, so there's not a whole lot in here. And this actually, I think if I take this off and do that, I'll get some different look and feel here a little bit. I now have the people vertical, which I apologize for the color scheme for those of you in the room. It doesn't look great, but you can get people search and things like that now. This is all evolving. And so if you're interested more on search, there are some really good sessions and some PowerPoint decks out there on what's coming and the capabilities. I just can't show it all right here until it lands in the tenant. Okay, number 7, interactive quizzes, polls, and surveys within stream videos. So I was looking at this earlier, was not able to find it in my environment here. Wherever I went to. That video of Penny rolling around in the dirt. That was
Classic SharePoint survey is really much to be desired.
But I mean, here's your.
Is it a new one?
What's that?
Is it a new survey, updated surveys or something?
It's the point is it's interactive within the stream videos.
Oh.
So I have a video up here in stream, and I could associate with this video a quiz, poll, or survey. So like you watch this video, it's about new product, and I can give you a survey that says, or a poll, which of these two is better, this or that, and you can respond after watching the video and things like that. I haven't been able to get an example going in there, but
It worked pretty well. I did one 2 days ago. It's, you actually build the quiz in forms, MS Forms, and then there's a little button that overlays so you can tell at what point of the video you want it to come up.
that's awesome.
And then it pops right up on the screen and you can fill out the,
So-
if you want to do quizzes or tests, make sure they're following the content in the presentation. It's nice.
Cool. We can do our own. It's like when you're watching a video on Facebook nowadays, you get 10 seconds in, and it's like, here's an ad.
Yeah.
We can just do that to our employees now. That's great. Here's a quiz.
You can't go any further until you enter.
So that's pretty cool stuff there. They did a really cool example of differential sync in OneDrive, where they had a 1.3 gigabyte file downloaded, and he made a minor change to some of the wording in the file and saved it. And instead of having to wait for the entire file, 1.3 gigs, to fully upload back up to OneDrive, it uploaded the 3 kilobytes of change that it needed to. So some really cool things there. We should be seeing things getting faster, more performant continually, and some excitement there. Teams and SharePoint integration improvements. I don't think that's a surprise for any of us. Teams, and SharePoint. You'll have full fidelity interaction with libraries and lists inside of Microsoft Teams. So more and more, SharePoint's becoming a kind of a background commodity service where it does what it's good at, but then Teams might be your user interface where you actually do most of your interaction with your documents. So, and then multi-geo capabilities. This was a big topic just because there's a lot of concern in the cloud about if I'm an EMEA organization and I'm governed by these rules and part of my data is out in the US, data centers in Texas or what have you, how does that affect me and blah, blah, blah. So this gives you the ability to say the data for my tenant stays in this region. So you can control, you can prevent your data from leaving your sovereign boundaries, essentially, as I understand it.
Does Microsoft use AWS
Does Microsoft use AWS?
for data storage?
They use Azure.
Yeah.
You're talking about Amazon Web Service, I'm assuming?
Yep. Azure's the one. All right. So that's my presentation. We are at 10 after. What did I want to do? I wanted to.
Have you guys all met each other? Everybody that's over there?
I mean, we've met each other from the group, yeah. Just by hanging out. And
I feel like I don't know anyone.
Well, you'll have to come in person next time. We'll do the rounds and
Oh,
introductions.
I will. Totally.
Yeah. So the next one will be it's the first Wednesday of every month, and so next will be. Just kidding. We're gonna skip next month because no one's gonna show up on July 3rd. Right?
I might. I really like SharePoint.
What day is that?
July 3rd.
Is it a Wednesday?
Wednesday, the day before the 4th.
Oh,
People are probably going to take Friday off.
right.
I mean, I'm all for meeting on July 3rd if you guys are up for it.
We have both.
I'm all for it.
It's on a Wednesday, some people take Monday, Tuesday, and some people take Thursday.
Yeah. So what we've seen with this group, again, today we've had 18 registrations. We've got 6 in the room, 7 including myself, and a handful online. So we're doing pretty good as far as registrations versus attendance. But is anyone, raise your hand if you do not want to meet on July 3rd. Totally cool, no hard feelings.
I think I'm gonna be out of town.
Out of town, we got one out of town, understood. Anybody online not wanting to do July 3rd? Okay.
My only reservation is that we're not getting big attendance, and that's
Yeah.
it'll make it worse. It's not going to make it better.
True. Yeah, we're not getting big. Well, and if you remember a couple years ago, that's kind of why the group died off a little bit. Is attendance kind of waned for a while, and then it got really hot, and then the holidays are out here, and then,
I would probably skip it. Probably
Folks-
not gonna get people are gonna, something's gonna come up for people probably.
Could you push it a week out, or could we do?
We could push it a week out, although I don't think we can push it a week out because Drive Time typically has every Wednesday night another group here. Yeah.
Okay.
So what I can offer, if you guys are up for it, let's do a fully remote session. Let's not come to Drive Time and do this in person. I'll stay home.
Okay.
You guys stay home. I'll stay home. We'll do the same thing.
I'm good with that.
And we can share video and woo, it'll be like the real thing. We'll see. So let's come back to that.
For your future in-person meetings, I wonder if there's, did we talk about this already, if we might want to do some promotion or something, or marketing of the SharePoint meetup group?
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that. but-
Well, that's a good point. I mean, as far as marketing a SharePoint group, our user group, this is not me. This is Reza who did this other presentation. He works with me. One of the things on my plate, because this group used to be led by myself, Eric Stoltz and Lester Sconiers, who are both very, very busy and families and so on, and traveling and all sorts of good stuff. So right now it's just me. And in order for me to help promote and increase attendance, I've got to do something. I have on my plate the plan to start showing up at some of the events at the Microsoft office nearby, just down the street on Rio Salado, and because they have meetups there too. And I've hosted a couple of these with Microsoft, and I think I just need to build those relationships so they're aware that we're still meeting and that we're doing it and that we need help, and they can help market it and encourage it. Now, I've asked my company to help market it and so on and everything else too, but the marketing department is kind of iffy on that because they don't want to start spamming all of our Catapult customers in the area to come to this group, because then that's effectively, can be bad for business or look.
I just meant like maybe if all of us like tweet the meetings or to our friends or Facebook or whatever, if we can try to get more people.
I would love to get more people here. Part of it too it'd be great to be able to give some stuff away. Like, hey, you've attended 30 sessions in a row. That's almost 3 years. You get a T-shirt. Or whatever the prize ends up being, right? I didn't want to overcommit right off the bat there. There's got to be ways. So if you guys can help, if you're on Twitter and you want to tweet the hashtag PHX365 and include the hashtag SharePoint, because then people who follow the SharePoint hashtag will see the PHX365, and then I'll start organically evolving and spreading. That would be huge. I try to do that. We have a, if I can find my browser here,
Is that our new name, Eric?
PHX365. Yep.
That was decided, I missed last month, sorry. So much has changed.
Are we all on like LinkedIn or something where we can all be together in one group?
Yeah, I mean, it's out there on LinkedIn as well. So like these are the tweets I've been putting out there as the night is occurring. Like, thanks Drive Time, thanks Catapult. Whether or not you know it, you're sponsoring us, and put the PHX365 on there. Any-
I'll Eric and just share his
Right.
tweets.
Yeah, if you guys want to retweet me, that's great. But Ashley, to your question, our LinkedIn group is another place that's good for that. So let me actually go to groups, and then in the groups there's PHX365, right? And so all this stuff's out here. And if you want to get really cool, if you want to do something really neato, you can go to ifttt.com.
I love it.
And create a recipe so that anytime you post something on LinkedIn, it also tweets it. Or anytime you tweet it, it also posts on LinkedIn. So there's some ways that you can do one thing and really attack social spaces in an annoying way to your friends and family so they want to stop following you. I don't think Flow does. I haven't really. There might be a Flow activity for LinkedIn by now. Does anyone know?
I think there
funny.
Well, while that loads, I did want to spend a little bit of time in Rez's presentation. He's got 133 slides and it's 100 megabytes, but I'm not going to go through all of it. He touches on home sites. We talked about that. There are some updates to SharePoint pages. We actually have the ability to create page templates now and have, different layouts. There's a new capability outlined here for lists. So you can create a new list from an existing list or create a list from Excel. Okay. Column and view formatting, we've covered that, I think, in previous sessions, but basically the ability to take a list and make it look cool. So I have a list out here into my team site. It's called Cool Contacts. And it's not that cool because it's a normal list. It's rows and columns of data in the default view. If I switch to my formatted view, where I've applied view formatting, now I've got some cool contacts. I've got the picture, job title, all the metadata is displayed in a really nice, compelling way. And I got some handy links and interactive maps and so on, kind of things going on. So view formatting, column formatting, really cool ways to spice up your look and feel. Full fidelity, we kind of talked about. Creating hubs. I guess we can create up to 2,000 hubs now and control who can join what hub and kind of help our organizational structure. And then that bottom item there, you'll see hub before you sub is something that people have been saying now for a while. Create a hub site before you create a sub site. Sub sites are, still possible, but generally not. They're just not usable. They're usable, but they're not effective the way that site collections are. Microsoft has basically said anything you're going to do now with a new site is just going to be a new site collection, and you'll have pages in there, and life is good. Different footer options now available in SharePoint Online. So simple, extended, stacked, or down at the bottom is kind of a custom one that the PMP starter kit includes. This I didn't really show, but if you are in here and you go to change the look, first of all, let me fix my theme so my friends here in the room can actually see what I'm doing. Dark background and on a projector is not great, but we'll go to change the look. I can customize the theme. I can change the header. So you've got the standard or compact. So currently we're on standard. I can switch to compact.
That was huge because that header takes up so much.
Yeah, it's not much of a difference, but it's enough of a difference to allow some flexibility. You can also, on the navigation, you can turn on a mega menu or do cascading. So cascading drop-downs, or there's a built-in mega menu now, which is nice. And there's also a footer. So you can turn it on or off and give it a name, turn the name of it on or off, footer name, copyright, whatever you want to do, and then throw some links in there. So when you edit, it's a little clunky because you get this panel over here on the left where you want to go to pmpcats.net, PMP cats. So we'll hit OK. We'll save our footer. Kind of give it a few seconds, and you typically kind of have to refresh the site to get things to settle down. It's not a sticky footer, so it's all the way at the bottom.
I want to meet your
I could bring Penny and Percy by probably. Actually, I don't know where my link is here. I thought I hit save, but Control F5 and go.
That cat almost looks like the ancient, like one of the Egyptians.
That's they are Cornish Rexes,
And almost a little bit like a Mexican Hairless, but with hair.
and this is their website.
The faithful
That's their pmpcats.net. That's
The Sphinx cat?
yeah.
Yeah.
They're they're good cats. Anyway, so the footer, some cool layout changes that we can do. One of the things, there's the footer. He's got a bunch of screenshots from the presentations he went to in here. Mentions a couple new web parts. There's a call to action, weather, world clock, banner. This was a pretty interesting topic of conversation for people, is the ability to have anchor links embedded in your pages. Now, let me just to clarify what that means. If you have a really long page and you want to put a link from one part of the page to another part of the page, so it auto scrolls when you click the link, you can do that now. It was not easy. You can do that in HTML with no problem, but in SharePoint it didn't quite work. So that's a new feature that they've got for you.
You can have like an index on it.
You can have an index on them for sure. Page templates I mentioned. There's different layouts for the news web part. Search we talked about. Custom refiners, custom verticals, result types, display templates. Everything we can do in Search Classic is coming to Modern Search. It's not there yet. It's not going to be there tomorrow, but it's coming soon.
Did they say how soon?
They will say soon. They don't really give specifics on that because eventually it gets to the point where they'll flip the switch and say start the rollout, and it takes however long it takes to roll out anyway. So they can't commit to specific dates on it. But I would say by the end of the year, and keep your eyes and ears open on Ignite too, because I'm sure that there are going to be additional announcements related to SharePoint and Office 365 at the Ignite conference. Every conference there are big announcements. So the teams are working on putting the bow on certain things now, and at Ignite they're going to say, hey, you remember that thing we talked about 3 months ago? Now it's GA, and you guys can just start using it. Microsoft Search and Bing, it is available now. There is a delay. Okay, you actually have to go into your admin center and set it up to connect with Bing, and that takes, I did it at the conference right when I heard about its availability, and then 2 sessions later, so let's call it 3 hours, I was able to get my search results from my admin center in the Office 365 Microsoft Search admin portal. I was able to see those results in Bing. So a handful of hours, but maybe my experience is different from others. Searching in Office. So this screenshot you can't really see too well, but this bottom part here, I can try to highlight it. Not with that one. Here we go. Oh, it's cutting off part of my screen. Control 4. Sorry. Back into that. So I'll do the mouse wiggle. Right here you see the search box and marketing. This is actually it looks like a PowerPoint presentation right there, and I'm in the search box performing a search to pull up search results over here on the right to interact with content and other files. Similar to what I did with Word earlier where I inserted the PowerPoint slide. Search in SharePoint we know about. That search box is up there at the top middle in the sweet bar. Search in OneDrive, and you'll notice the consistency here, right? Search box is at the top. Search box is at the top. Search box is at the top. Let me switch over to Microsoft Teams. Search box is at the top. So there's some consistency here. Search in Windows, I mentioned that coming soon. And then there's the admin portal I mentioned as well. Some notes on some improvements to speed. Reza's got some information on that. Increases in file size, number of documents in a tenant, base storage increases. Microsoft has analytics running against all these environments that are consuming its services, and they see the needs for growth, and they're making changes accordingly. I'm going to skip some of these things here. OneDrive is just becoming more integrated, easier to use, easier to protect. You can actually set up organizational policies now for external links. So at ASU, for example, if you guys were to go into OneDrive and share a file with an anonymous user, or create a link that anyone in the world, that if they have that link, they can view the file. The admins can now force those things to expire and put like time frames around how long those links are going to work. So there are ways to control some of that now. Stream, we talked about interactive quizzes, polls, surveys, interactivity on the phone. Live events in Yammer we kind of talked about. Power Apps and Flow, lots of stuff coming, lots of updates coming to Power Apps and Flow. Templates, I don't want to just read this to you guys. I will share these presentations with you so you have them. Any questions on any of this so far? In the room or online, feel free to speak up or put it in the chat.
Power App, are we going to see more some of the things we saw in InfoPat and like Power App, like repeating tables, like in InfoPat, you could, if you had like an invoice, you could make like several entries. So sure, Shane on Power Apps.
Shane Cows?
Around before you do it, but I think I'm gonna make it so it's actually a way to do it in Power Apps.
I don't know offhand. I don't know. As far as that kind of that full fidelity comparison to InfoPath, I don't see that yet. But there are a lot of things out there on user voice that people have requested that they bring in, and there are some things that you can do, but I don't know if it's going to be to where like a repeating table control where you can
Full calculation.
parse all that data, and I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Or copy it. Like right now, if you make a Power App, you gotta do it all over again to duplicate it.
No,
Can you?
you can export it.
Oh, that's right.
Because I got a button in my InfoPad, they just press the button, it goes right to an email, pops right into the
That's
email,
right,
sends
that's
it
right.
right off to the customer.
We can do that with Flow. Save it. Oh, can you save the?
Yeah.
Power App?
You can save the Power App as a. I've been doing this a lot lately.
I'm thinking of custom forms, like a Power App from a list. So a Power App custom form, you can't duplicate those yet. So if you do,
Right.
if you customize a form,
Yeah, and you have an InfoPad then with the form, with the,
or just a plain,
with the list, form list.
right.
Yeah, yeah, I have
Whichever
one
one
of
list,
those,
you
yeah,
can't duplicate it.
right.
Or is it a duplication of the form for the same list?
Yeah,
For the
it
s-
pulls
right,
fields
for the
off of
same list, like
InfoPad
you want-
into the list.
Duplicate it.
Yeah, there are some things. So here's an app that we're working on at Catapult, the Fuse Governance Center, and so from here you can just export the package,
Okay.
and then you put in the metadata and any connections and anything. It'll ask you about how you want to handle those when you bring it into your new environment. But I could take that package and import it into a new tenant, set it up, configure it, and everything's there and working. But as far as those forms that are specific to lists and SharePoint,
Right.
yeah, I don't know offhand if there's a way to do that. But I mean, when you customize a list, it does go through as a Power App, right?
It does. But let's say you want.
So here's
to make
my,
the same one. You want to, let's say you have a color, a theme, and so forth, and certain types of way you designed it, the size. You've got to completely do all of those steps all over
Oh,
again.
Okay. I mean, we could try to, because if I customize the form here,
That's why we went classic, because
Yeah.
there's so much missing still.
It's nice, but once they add that feature where you can duplicate it, that would be great.
Right.
building the app. So I'm trying. Let's just see what happens. We've got some time here.
I'll say that.
And customize this form and make it available on a list. Do your users, once they click on that, they have to log into Power Apps?
They've got to have a license.
That's a good question. I don't know. I've honestly not done this yet. So let's see what happens. I guess
I've
here.
had users say, oh, I can't get to you. They're like, oh, when I go to click on the list, it says you don't have a Power App license.
So here's my screen. If I make it a fun color like that, there's my custom form now, right? So I can play it and see what it looks like. Cool. I could go to file, save. So it's cool contacts on Team01 forms. There's the list it's connected to. If I save it, saving to Power Apps, then I would publish. Now it does say publish to SharePoint, not publish in Power Apps. So now let me just go to powerapps.microsoft.com. See if it's in Power Apps itself. So sign, oh boy, sign it again.
Two different environments.
Right? So apps and recent apps. Okay, no apps found, shared with me, apps I can edit, and org apps. So I'm not seeing it here as an actual app in Power Apps that I can export and reuse and so on.
Save as function on the phone.
Unless it's delaying.
That looked like it may have been grayed out, but
Let's go back to the list. Where did it go? I do love how the Modern Experience gives you everything in a new tab all the time too. Sometimes. So here's my list, and so now I'm assuming if I hit new, I'll get the
Yes.
cool form. Okay. And customize. It's going to take me back out to the Power App. But it's almost like it's a hidden Power App. It's not available somewhere, right? I already have it editing. All right, let's override that.
Where are those Power Apps stored on your SharePoint?
It's a good question. I don't know.
They're actually, so you have to go into the list and go to advanced settings, and then it creates 3 options for you. So you can still choose custom form, info pad form, or out of the box.
save as grayed out.
Yeah, save as is grayed out. Share is grayed out. It's almost like it's a unique one-off Power App. You know, it's somehow this is all embedded in SharePoint, and I don't know of a way that you could extract and reuse it easily. So that's a good point.
You gotta use your voice.
There you go. What else do we have? Business apps.
Yeah, that's where like Flow still doesn't.
Oh, here's a nice cool slide on.
Workflows, the older workflows have.
So here's an interesting slide on Logic Apps versus Flow. Logic Apps are an Azure thing, so if you don't have access to Azure, this doesn't apply. But when you're building a solution, you're trying to figure out, hey, Flow can do this, and Logic Apps can do it too, but what cases might I use one versus another? This is kind of a cool breakdown of that to help give you some guidance. Okay.
There's no mention in on-premise SharePoint. It looks like everything's 360. Yeah, but they're gonna market some point.
Well, that's a good question. Is everything we're doing, we are talking about Office 365, SharePoint Online mostly. So the on-premises versions of SharePoint going forward are point-in-time snapshots of SharePoint Online. So Microsoft is constantly evolving SharePoint Online,
Yeah.
and then at certain times you'll have 2016, 2019, 2022, whatever year they end up on next. And even then, not all of the features in online will be available on-prem. Because in the online world, we have services like the Graph API. Now, are they going to box that up and make part of the Graph API available as an on-premises service that you can, internally build your own Graph server and go through all that? Maybe. I don't know. But some of what we're talking about here you can do on-premises, but, we'd have to look at each individual item individually and say, yes, this is online, or yes, it's on-prem, or no, it's not.
We have on-prem because some big companies just have
Right.
ecosystem. And that's not, I don't see that going away.
Well, and Microsoft is committed to the on-prem world. They've said several times that I think with 2016, there's a lot of concern that 2016 was going to be the last on-prem server edition for SharePoint, and Microsoft has said over and over, like, no, we're committed to on-premises. Like, 2019 came out, everyone was excited. The next one's going to come out, and they're just going to keep it going.
That's why we were stuck. End of 18, because they didn't wanna, we didn't wanna go over to online because of security.
Let's see.
We made the move.
A lot of good info here on the dev side of things.
Everything's so like,
You're at the mercy of Microsoft, changes that. Where before we could install.
I'm looking for more of the cool stuff.
Now we can't just whatever's there, whatever.
So I'll share these presentations out on LinkedIn. I've also grabbed a couple of presentations from Chris Kent. Okay, so lost most everybody online. Thanks, Naveen, for hanging out. I've also grabbed a couple of these presentations from Chris Kent. So if you haven't seen his presentations, I encourage you to go through them and watch his videos and look at his stuff. He's hilarious. His content's fun and engaging. He's got his own Marty McFly kind of parody there from. So he does the creative stuff in his presentations where he puts together these animations, and I'm getting there. I want to see if I can find. So what is the SharePoint framework, web parts and extensions, and what kinds of things can you create as far as extensions go? Application customizer like the header, command set. The command set in the middle there, that's like when you are out and you click the ellipsis next to a document, you get that context menu that pops up. You can put custom stuff in there. Chris actually did a really funny demo of one of his own solutions, which if I can find it here, Showcase 01. I think I forgot which list I put it in, actually. I was in the footer, so I got my footer. I got a bunch of links in the footer. And, oh yeah, I need to go to the root site. So in my footer list, I think, maybe. Not this one. It's the mega menu list. No, it's definitely the footer list. In any case, the story goes, there it is. I have to select an item, and then I can clone it. So Chris, in his presentation, he had a list that had a sheep named Dolly, and he was able to select Dolly and click clone, and then another instance of Dolly showed up. And so he's doing this demo, and I was just like, everyone was just, yeah, dying laughing, like, good stuff. But yeah, I mean, this, something as simple as taking an existing list item and making a copy of it, and then being able to change it, clone. Now it's there. It may not be. There it is right there. Modern team. Just created another copy of it. So then I could take that and edit it. Instead of having to re-enter all the information again, I could change the one thing I need to. It's kind of cool. But this is an example of an extension. It's a particular action targeted to this specific footer list, so you can quickly copy items, clone items.